in the video, she shares why she named this book Daring Greatly. And it comes from a speech by Theodore Roosevelt gave on April 23rd in 1910. And this is a part of the speech. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds. Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spend himself in a worthy cause. Who at best knows in the end of the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So if you don't know anything about Brene Brown and her work, we're just going to assume at least one of you don't, if not more. I'm really into her stuff, and here's why. Because she is a sociologist. She went into research, and she was looking, she knows that the reason why we love connection, that's why we are here, that's what it's all about. So she was looking for data about connection, and what she found were stories about shame and unworthiness. And being a good scientist, she thought that was very interesting and did more research. And as she did that, she realized that those who were the most resilient in the face of shame, it does not that things didn't happen, but the people who were most resilient, they were what she decided to call wholehearted. And they lived, and they had this definition of life that was different than those who really got caught up in the shame. And so, in one of her other books, not the book we're working on, but there she outlines these guideposts to what it means to be wholehearted. And I'm just going to go over them really quick. There's 10 of them. And they are authenticity, self-compassion, a resilient spirit, gratitude and joy, intuition and trusting faith, creativity, play and rest, calm and stillness, meaningful work, and laughter. And so those are all really great things. And we'll be talking about how we can activate those. And so while those are guideposts to having a wholehearted life, which, I mean, I think that having a life that's more wholehearted and less full of shame or unworthiness, that sounds like a good idea, right? That seems, yeah, okay. And this is like the real science about, like, this is real science, not just somebody made up stuff. There's like real science. I think that's I don't know, for me that's nice. I mean, so you can hear lots of good ideas, but it's nice to have the science that goes along with it. And so then she goes on to describe what the definite, like, what does it mean to be wholehearted living? Like, what are those points? And that's kind of what this book is talking about. So this is based on these ideas that that love and belonging are irreducible needs for everyone. That we all need that connection. We can agree with that, right? And what her research shows is that of all the people that she interviewed, and there's lots and lots of the numbers in the video, those there's two groups. One who has a deep sense of love and belonging, and those who struggle for it. And there's only one thing that separates those two groups. There's the people who believe they're worthy of it, and the people who don't. Real science, right? And so the next thing is that this strong belief in our worthiness doesn't just happen, it's something that's cultivated. And that's why she has all those guideposts of ways that we can help ourselves cultivate those things in our lives. And so what those people who are wholehearted do is they live a life that's defined by courage, compassion, and connection, which are things you've probably heard me talk about before. And I'm not a person who underlines things in books. I don't know, I have like maybe it's because I've borrowed so many books from the library that I have a thing, but I actually underlined this. That's how serious I thought about this thing. So the one thing, the single most clear value in all the people that she interviewed of all over the spectrum about having wholehearted is they attribute their success in their professional lives, in their personal lives, parenting, relationships, etc. Everything is on their ability to be vulnerable. That's what it all comes down to. So, yeah, we're going to do 8 weeks on being vulnerable. Doesn't that sound like fun? Let's just have a moment to be like, okay, and some of that seems kind of scary, right? Because many people have spent their lives building up armor and being strong and having it together, being camera ready, whatever that looks like for you. That's how we show up in the world. We look good. Some people even have people whose jobs it is to make them look good. It seems exhausting, but all of that is so that we don't have to be vulnerable, so that nobody has to see who the real deal, who we are, because for some reason we think that that's not good enough. And so we're gonna baby step. Nobody freak out. Everything's gonna be okay. We're gonna baby step our way through some of this research that she has to help us let go of some of the armor and let go of some of the things that we put between us and truth and put between us and being real. Because those things are keeping us from really having the full, joyous, exciting life that we want to have. Because when we put a stop on being real, I think it also puts a stop on us having any of the, joy. Because can we really feel joy if we can't really be true to who we are? It's one of the things I love about Alaskans. We're a lot less armor-like than someplace people. So, having all this armor, is it helpful? I mean, there's times, I suppose, when it serves a purpose. That's the way we grew it. Maybe we had a situation where we had a really rough relationship or a really rough boss or something like that, and that's what we needed to do to get through the day, and there you go. Because maybe making another job choice wasn't in one of the options we felt was ours. Okay, but is it still really serving us? So it's really great today is Pet Day, because what I love, so do y'all know why so St. Francis of Assisi is the patron saint for animals, and since he died the first week of October, this is when his feast day is. This is all what the Catholics do, of course. And so many churches and spiritual communities do pet blessings this first week in October, because that's just sort of the week that everybody does it. So here we are. doing our pet blessing today because this is the week that everybody does it. And thankfully, it's not supposed to rain. and nobody brought their horse. And really, my friend who's in Unity of Arlington, Texas, she had people bring their horses yesterday to their pet blessing. Just saying. So maybe next time. So what's great about pets and what we can learn from, we can learn a lot of things from our pets, right? But they're vulnerable. We bring them into our homes. They depend on us for their survival. We build relationships with them. They, you know, when they lay back on their backs like this, they're open. I mean, that's as vulnerable as you can be. And you could do anything at that point. And so, and here's the other thing. When we play with our pets, often we allow ourselves to be more authentic, right? You might not get down on the floor and really just enjoy having fun and goofing off and giggling and things, but when you have your puppy there, or you're playing with your cat and the string and the feather or whatever, you might be really you're in the moment, you're being with another being, you're having a good time, you're not worried about what you look like, right? So our pets can be a great gateway into remembering the truth of who we are and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Because they certainly don't pretend. Even those sassy, aloof cats, really. And so, you know, our pets remind us that we're connected not only we're connected to one another. All of us are connected. We're connected to our animals. We're connected. We are all God energy. So something that happened while I was at the conference, and with the opening thing we do, first thing, is we have a water ceremony. And people bring water from their water source from wherever they're at. And so I went down to the creek, right down over there, and took my thing of water in the airplane, which is, you gotta wrap in zippy bags a few times to make sure it makes it. And each community that's a part of our region, 49 communities, someone reads their name. And if someone is there from that community, they come up and they pour a little bit of their water in this big vase. And they say where their water came from. And if somebody is not there from that community, someone else stands up and says, I'll stand in for that community. So and they do this every year. So even years that our community wasn't represented, somebody stood up for us and said, we're connected. Last year, because I had just got here, and then, you know, everything was all cattywampus. My friend Terry, who I stayed with at Unity Olympia, she stood up for us because she told me. And I know that. But every year. So there were people from lots of communities there, and there were some communities that someone else easily jumped in and said, I connect with that community. I'm standing up for that community. So we all poured our water into this big vase, and there was waters from the headwaters of the Missouri River, which is out in Montana, and from all over the place. From downtown Spokane, and from the water tap at Unity of Missoula, and all sorts of great places, including our little Camel Creek water. And then at the end, so it sat in the middle the whole time, and then at the end we all took our little vial of our water, and we're supposed to take it back to our waters because it symbolizes that connection that we all have. Because when you look at it, you can't say, well, that's mine, and that's, you know, it's all the same. And I'm guessing that some of the people that brought water from municipal sources probably didn't have little floaty things in it. But some water, like mine, probably did have little floaty things in it, so those could be mine. But that doesn't matter because it reminds us that we're all connected. And when we remember that we're all connected, I think it's a little easier to be vulnerable, to be real, because we remember that we're all like that on the inside. It's just armor that we use to separate us. So I know that as we work into this stuff in this series, some of it's going to stretch and it's going to seem a little scary. But that's why it's called Daring Greatly. I think it's a great name. I think she picked a great name, a great story. Because the real life, the good life, the life worth having, doesn't happen by sitting around twiddling your thumbs and watching reruns of Star Trek. I say that because watching reruns of Star Trek is one of the things we do. But that's not how it happens, right? So today's talk is titled, Get in the Ring. How do we get in the ring of our lives? You know, spiritual leaders from Moses to Buddha to Jesus to Muhammad, etc., etc., etc. They have all had a time of cleansing and releasing and transformation. In our modern story, I think about Myrtle Fillmore, who spent hours a day in prayer and meditation and affirming the truth of her health before she actually had the outpicturing of health. And that outpicturing of health is what started the Unity movement. But it wasn't just like, oh, she said, I'm going to start a church. That is not how it happened, you know. She had to go through her own cleansing. She had to cleanse the ideas in her mind where she said a lot of not very nice things about her body. Because she'd been told, and she grew up in a culture that said that she was sickly, and so she believed it. And so she had to clean all that stuff out. And so that's one of the things that we have to do to get into the ring, to change our lives, is to take the time to clear our minds, take the time to clear whatever out is in there that's getting in the way, the monkey chatter. And as we do that, and as we conquer our personal monsters, because all of our personal monsters probably look a little different than each other's, but in general, they could go away, right? I'll be okay with my personal monsters going away. And as you do that, as our spiritual leaders have done those things, they find their truth, they find their oneness, and that's what we're trying to aim for. That's what I'm trying to aim for. I'm hoping that's what y'all are here for. We're doing that. So I'm going to read the story one more time to remind us to be brave. To remind us that it's just one more step. It's just like learn how to ride a bike or learn algebra. It is not the critic who counts. It is not the critic who counts. That's one of the reasons people have armor, right? The critic. It's not the critic who counts. Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man or woman who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause. Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. And I put that in the back of your order of service part in your bulletin, so you can check that out, read it again and again. So as we embark on this journey of daring greatly and becoming more authentic and vulnerable, it may be scary. It may not be pretty. And it may not be easy. Actually, it probably won't be easy. But we stand on the shoulders of millennia of spiritual teachers and philosophers, as well as solid research that says that we can live a more free and loving and connected life if we are only willing to get in the ring.